Welcome back to another episode of the Driver Excuse. I almost said the Hansen Brothers podcast, so it's the Driver Excuses podcast. As you all know, I'm Kevin. I'm here with my brother Timmy, and we bring you the best driver excuses in the business, but also the Hansen brother lifestyle and what we do day to day and what's going on in the motorsport world. So welcome back to another episode. Timmy, how are we doing today?
Yeah, great. It's been some racing this weekend with WRC. I've had an announcement like in my bubble, in my world with E1. I've got a new teammate, and the biggest thing that we got to go through in terms of news is the RallyX Americas story that we covered last week. I had to fight so hard to not kind of reveal that Hansen has a team in there because it wasn't announced at the time of recording. Then it was announced just after, so I guess it got a little bit weird. But yeah, Hansen Motorsport will be participating in RallyX Americas in Crandon, Eldora, Canada, and Portugal. So it's a 4-event doubleheader season, and it's very exciting. There is still rallycross going on in the world. It's a big project. It's they're aiming super high over there to take that spot that Nitrocross had and keep delivering good rallycross racing to the fans. Yeah. So how should we dive in a bit to that? There will be 3 cars, Kevin. With 3 cars in the Hansen team. Who will be
I think
driving?
the first to mention, like you say, who will be driving. At the moment, it's not us. This is a very much a new journey for RallyX, and they've decided to take in some of these great teams to join forces, and it's much more a joint championship effort than a single teams, and I think that creates a very interesting joint force like it should be in rallycross. We're all working together always, and it's great to see that that there's more like we said last week, more racing coming in the States. But for racing cars and drivers, obviously, I think that's something that will develop as things move forward, and who's interested to get into racing in the US. And obviously there's a lot of drivers that was in Nitrocross that didn't race in the World Championship, for example. I'm sure there will be some people over in Europe that say, I know Rally X, I would like to do that. I can now, join in the top category. But also, some of those Nitrocross drivers feeling like, okay, great, finally my series is back. I can go racing. So I think from the driver's perspective, there is, I guess 12 seats open because there's 4 teams announced and I guess it's 3 cars in each team. And there's a lot up for grabs.
Yeah, and there has been a lot of discussion around drivers, and there's a lot of interest apparently. I've been on all the calls together with Dad to try to set this up and try to organize everything that's going on. But as you say, the 3 drivers not confirmed. I guess if you're listening to this, it feels like a no-brainer that it should be Kevin and Timmy, maybe plus someone else. But it's not quite that easy. Motorsport costs a lot of money. You need sponsors. You need a lot of things.
Timmy is saying that we're too expensive.
We're broke, either broke or too expensive.
We're too expensive.
So we're working on that. For me, the goal is to drive. I would love to be there. I love racing in America. I had a great time when we did the Nitrocross season back in 2021. It was one of my most enjoyable motorsport memories that I got. So, it would be great to be back. And the car to be used is the FC1. It's 1,000 horsepower electric 4-wheel drive car. So it's insanely fast, and it behaves very different to the electric cars that we had in the World Championship because of a technical detail that is not obvious at all from the outside. But because they're using a prop shaft, connecting the front and the rear axle, like a normal car, like a normal 4-wheel drive car has that. It has the engine in the front and then a prop shaft bringing that power to the rear wheels. That's kind of how a normal 4-wheel drive car feels. But the electric cars in the World Championship went a bit more futuristic, where you had one engine on the front and another on the rear, and they were not connected, meaning that you could have wheel spin in the rear or wheel spin in the front, and you could also lock on the braking, the front wheels or the rear wheels, which made the car feel even though it's four-wheel drive technically, it made it feel very different to an old school four-wheel drive car. The FC1 car has that old school feel to it, although it's electric. So when I did the race in Las Vegas a couple of years ago now, it was like, yeah, that's like that's the feeling. That's what I enjoy. So I for me it suited my style way better because you can you can be a bit more aggressive like that. You can brake a bit later because you just don't lock any wheel. You can be more aggressive on the throttle because you don't spin up an individual axle. So they feel a bit more aggressive to drive, and they're insanely fast. Like you have that push to pass button on the steering wheel, which gives you those 1,000 horsepower. That's a juicy button to press.
But it's difficult in the speed that we have in rallycross to use that power, because in the end of the day you almost just wheel spin when you put that much power down in the ground. It's almost too much power. But that's a nice problem to have, you know. I think it's just a little bit like a car that's built a little bit more the old school way with new technology. And you know, I'm sure, you know, if you know, there is ways you can, you know, map and create the prop shaft in some certain ways, but it costed a lot in developing that electronically. And it's a little bit of a shortcut, I think, to do that prop shaft. And you know, in the end of the day it works. We spent so many, you know, years testing a central diff with Porsche back in the day. And even, you know, when it was locked, it behaved differently. It was very strange. So I'm sure, you know, when mechanically wise, you know, things happen when you don't see them in the shortest little moments. And sometimes it's just good to have that pure, simple mechanical features instead of electronic work. And I'm sure, you know, it looks like a really fun car to drive. And it's a little bit heavier than, let's say, most race car. I think it's at 1,600 kilos. So for sure, it's not easy to shave, you know, a 300 or so kilos down. But we also know the Extreme H car, for example, is very heavy, and you know, racing is still epic. So it's going to be nice to see those cars go to, for example, those, you know, stadium truck tracks like Crandon. I mean, we raced back in the days in ERX in Minneapolis, which was a great track for stadium truck style, big jumps, you know, a lot of sand it. And I think it's going to be really cool to see that grow. And it's going to be interesting. You know, there's a lot of people that have tried to make it work in America. You know, there was back in the very early days, there was something called RallyX in the US in the very, very early starts. And then it went to Global Rallycross, then it went to Rebel Global Rallycross, then it was Nitro World Games, then Nitro RX, Nitro Cross, and here we are at the
In between was
RallyX
also ARX. Do you remember?
ARX. We also had for a bit, yeah.
Mm,
So there's
GRC.
been a lot of different big corporates trying to make it work. So let's see if RallyX have some sort of trick up their sleeve to make it work.
Yeah, I think it just hasn't worked financially yet, but there is a strong fan base over there. Like people enjoy watching short course racing over in America. And this is a form of short course racing with a bit smaller cars, although the FC1 is pretty big, but it's not as big as the Pro 4 and Pro 2 trucks that we'll be racing together with. You know, they're huge and they can jump so far. But they do expect the FC1 to go faster than them. So that's kind of exciting.
For sure, yeah. What I also
Yeah.
like is that, you know, they not only bring the FC1s, they bring, you know, a little bit more of a proper, you know, progression. So you have the cross guards coming, you have the, I guess they call them FC3s, which is the supercar lights, RX2, whatever you want to call them. Then you have the FC2 car, which is upgraded lights car, which is, you know, a really nice middle step. And then you have that FC1 car. So really a nice ladder of, you know, cross guard lights, FC2, FC1, and that's good. I think it needs, you know, Rallycross really needs, back in days when I started, it was very clear steps how to go and get to the top, but it's really faded, become a bit more blurry recently, and I think this is something that's really improved that, and it needs to be like that. We can see the same in the World Championships, having now RX5, which is crossguard, RX4, which is I think is four-wheel drive, you know, a rally car that has about 200 horsepower or so. You know, I think it's the Rally 4 relation of Rally 3, and then, you know, you have the RX3 cars, which is Sub 1600 front wheel drive, missing that RX2 category there, but than RX1 top category. So it's good. It's getting there again, and it really needs that young youth to come back in again into that. Rallycross is made for the young generation to consume on socials, but then there has not been a place for them to start racing it. Everyone's just gone into
Yeah,
karting and then not knowing where to go. So this is a great also feature that RallyX will bring.
it is. And I think that the trick up his sleeve that Andreas Eriksson has, he's really the one who's been cooking this up, this idea, this concept, and he's brought the teams together. And now we're able to work very closely in how we're going to run this championship and what it means at the end of the line after we're able to put everything together is that the costs go way down. So it's much easier now to be able to enter a car into the top category. It doesn't cost hundreds and hundreds of thousands per season, even up, towards $1 million that we've had before. It just narrows down how many people could participate before. Now they've brought that cost way down, which I really hope will make the entries way bigger. It makes it more affordable, more approachable for drivers to join. And then we get that perfect world where young drivers can climb up through the ladders. It's not an impossibly expensive top level. So they can get all the way up there, show their talent, and, just like put on good racing at the end of the day. And the fans will be excited for good racing, good passing, big jumps, all of that. So yeah, let's see. It's not too far into the future that it's going to start. So we got to be fast with setting this team up. But yeah, that's how it goes. Should we move on to WRC in Croatia?
Timmy's bet on the world champion took a tumble directly after 4 kilometers on the first day. Oliver going off the road very early on. We could see he was devastated. Obviously, I would understand that. It's a small mistake. It feels silly in the moment, but it's also very easy to happen and create that. I saw the highlights of the race weekend this morning on the final day, and the results come up, and then obviously Thierry went off on the final stage, crashing out from the lead, taking his first win of for Hyundai this year, and lost that, which was gutting. And coming to the results of the end, Taka won once again, but it was only 3 WRC cars that finished. The rest, from 4th down, it was the WRC2 cars, and I just think that is not. It's not good
That's
enough.
crazy.
It's not a good look when so many pro drivers don't even make it to the end of the rally. The ones in the lower categories are more sensible.
Maybe the pace is just too high. Like we're looking at these guys going absolutely crazy fast on these roads. And in my opinion, Oliver has brought it up another level. How fast you got to go to win an event. And he went out in style, in typical his fashion, win it or bin it kind of thing. Unfortunately, he went off. I felt bad for him because he was really gutted.
For sure.
But as we've been saying, he's really the full send, who's like the guy can win a stage by a minute or don't finish. And now he didn't finish. And then he won a bunch of stages after.
Yeah, he won 10 stages and won the Super Sunday, and he Wolf Powers. He was on fire. So I felt bad for him getting out so early on that. But it shows, he has like Kalle Rovanperä also was super quick in his first year, but then he made a lot of mistakes. You need to do that also to get to the point where you can become, a world rally champion. So we feel for him, but also I guess the one who is a world champion, Thierry Neuville, did that big mistake on the final stage, and a bit of gravel went off, and front right suspension completely gone. That's especially on the stage before where he said, "I'm just going to bring it to the finish." Is that acceptable for someone getting, having 10, 15 years of experience, top category, finally have been leading that team since Hyundai entered? Is it good enough to me?
No, it's not good enough. And he's got to cook up some incredible excuse to get away with that one.
Well, yes, it's a good excuse there. It was gravel pulled out on the roads. It was gravel on the road.
It's a bit weak.
It's weak for sure, but it's an excuse.
It's an excuse, yeah, but he should have had a better excuse. Maybe we need to call him and give him some tips on how to make good excuses.
Bring you on here to hear what his actual excuse was there.
I actually didn't see his interview after, but I saw Oliver's interview, and it was like heartbreaking to see because he had this cap like all low down, didn't want to show his face, and made the interview. It was full of excuses. Exactly
Yeah,
like we're talking about,
yeah.
yeah, I had that hard tire on and I never driven with the hard tire, and yeah, it's I shouldn't have pushed so hard, but I did. Obviously he owned the mistake. Like
Yeah.
like,
But
he
also some
didn't
nice excuses in there,
blame
which I
he,
rate. Good.
yeah, he didn't blame anything else, but it's still full of excuses. And I think the best excuse there is out of any excuse is that I didn't have the experience. That
Yeah,
excuse
that's
gets you a
simple.
long way until you're
Simple.
Thierry Neuville and you've already been world champion and you've driven for years and years. I don't know how long. Then he does have the experience. So
Yeah,
he
but
doesn't have
can
the
you actually have that excuse beyond the rookie season to say you don't have the experience? I think in the rookie season you can always say,
yeah
yes, he's a rookie. That's the title that you're new. Season 2 or season 20, you're just another participant. So does that
yeah.
excuse cut it? I'm not
You
sure.
see, like a rookie doesn't have to perform as good because you have that excuse in your back pocket that I don't have the experience. But then if
Yeah,
you keep performing at rookie level in your 5th season, eventually, that excuse doesn't cut it. So you need to get
and
to low level where you just like, I
yeah,
didn't make a
exactly.
lot of excuses. I just won.
Legend. If you missed that episode, tune in. It was our first one as driver excuse. You can find it here on whichever platform you're listening to. Speaking of driver excuses, are you gonna have any excuses now when you got a new teammate in E1?
Yeah, Rihanna O'Mara Hunt is my new teammate in Team Miami in E1. And well, she doesn't have a lot of experience, so she has that, up her sleeve. She
Mm.
has done only one race, although she spent a year as a reserve driver for Team Drogba. So she has a lot of knowledge about the sport. And now her first full-time seat. We are very happy to have her on the team. She's been joining very well. We've been doing loads of meetings. She feels like part of the team already. We're having good discussions on how to get a bit more performance, how to be a bit more clever in certain situations, and so. Yeah, Rihanna stepping up to be Team Miami pilot. It's going to be very exciting to drive with her. And yeah, I don't know her super well, to be honest. We've met in the paddock and now lately in some FaceTime calls and stuff like that. Yeah, getting to know her better, racing together with her, bringing us forward. I believe in her, though. I believe in her a lot. And yeah, she's going to be, our new secret weapon.
This is your 5th teammate in E1, is it? That
Yeah,
you're racing with? What?
this is a sad story.
Let's say, without mentioning any names on previous experiences, what would you give the advice to her now to say avoid these 3 things?
Well,
Just don't
excuse.
do
Don't
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 do
do
these
anything.
things.
Don't do anything. You need to make an
Don't fall off
excuse
the
for.
foil.
Don't fall off the
Don't
foil.
be too early in the launch.
Don't f up the start, and don't crash. Pretty simple. But honestly,
Nice.
in E1, if you have a start when you cross the line 0-0, like, or 0, like 2 tenths behind 0, and you don't fall
Yeah.
off the foil, if both of us do that, I think
Yeah,
we're gonna
get
win.
pretty far. Get pretty
It
far.
yeah, but
That's what I was saying though. I was like,
that's a
Timmy,
bit. Just stay on the
just
foil.
foil. Just
Yeah,
stay on the foil.
but that's a bit like
Don't try
in
and
car
say,
racing.
don't try and be P1 in the sectors and, get on the limits. Screw that. Just stay on the foil.
Yeah, that's a bit like in car racing to say like just drive a bit faster than the others.
Or yeah, or just like stay on the road.
Yeah, just stay on the road, Terry. So yeah, I mean, it isn't easy to stay on the foil. You need to be a good driver. You need a lot of experience. It's a lot of reasons why you can fall off. It's not just go slower to stay on the foil. It's not that easy. It's easier in WRC to stay on the road.
Uh, we're looking forward to some E1 excuses very soon.
Yeah, plenty are coming. So the race is in. We're gonna do next week's episode, and then following that is the race in Lake Como in Italy.
It's not too bad location to go for a race. Speaking of race, and speaking earlier of prop shaft, Timmy, top 3 race cars that you have driven. Does the FC1 catch the top 3 or?
Top 3 race cars I have driven is
Or
for
you have
sure.
driven that many?
No, I haven't
It's like
driven
a
3. No, I
Peugeot?
have driven.
That's it.
You know, at third place for me, I gotta put a bit of a surprise out there for you.
An
The
Opel Vauxhall rental car in
the
2003.
third best race car I've ever driven is the Miguel cross kart or the Ligier cross
Nice.
kart. When I
That's
drove it was Miguel, now it's
surprising.
Ligier, and it's just so fun to drive. It's
I guess it's a
unbelievable.
question of what do you say is it like there's obviously like factory, you know, cars and stuff, but then also a cross car can be a really good car. So I guess you have to put it in perspective here, don't you?
Yeah, and cross kart is so many young drivers who's so fast, and the car just had to be full send all the time, no doubt. Yeah, cross
That's
kart
good.
in number 3. Kevin, what's your third best car?
My third best car, if I'm gonna choose, I had a brilliant experience actually once, um, in the RX-2E car. It's
Nice.
gonna get up there because I had a few tests with it and races that I really thought it was handling really nicely. It was fun to drive. You had to figure out a few key points. You know, I really like single make cars. I mean, I could also put, example, the Extreme E car there. Then, though it's not the greatest car because it's really poor suspension and it
Yeah.
also flipped a lot of times. But you know, sometimes you can just get a good balance and stuff. But then I think the
Yeah,
RX-2E car will get there. It's for sure better than the RX-2 car, better balance and everything. So the RX-2E car will get there. A little bit low power maybe, but it's gonna take my third spot.
nice. It's a good choice. Second spot on the list of our favorite cars to drive all time. Second place is a tough one because it's like it's got to
Well, it's the
be
one. It's
so
the one
good.
that could be first, but it didn't quite get there.
Yeah. And first is easy for me. First, I got it in the bag. And I'm not just going to say Peugeot Rallycross car. I've driven
Now you
a
will
million
it's a
different
bit more
versions of it.
specific.
So I'm going to go the second best race car I've ever driven is the FC1.
Mm,
1,000 horsepower, unbelievably quick in a straight line. It has gears. It has the prop shaft. It's a bit heavy, which I like. The driving style of a heavy car is kind of cool. And it's so good at jumping. Like you can jump so far and it just takes the landing. Doesn't care.
yeah,
So yeah, second best car for me is the FC1. When I drove it in Las
nice.
Vegas, I only have one outing in it.
Yeah, well, that's fine. Coming into second spot for me, um, is a car I've driven twice, but really nice car, really balanced, and also just something that nobody's ever seen me race in. It's actually the Hyundai i20 WRX car. Really nice. I did a few tests with the PGRX team back in the days, and a really good race car. Nice balance, not insanely different from the Peugeot in some ways because it's rallycross car, same regs in a way, but different engine manufacturer in that one, which was interesting. Makes a difference, different techniques. Then you had also different suspension, different just in general balance. It was a very nice car and something that I would like to drive again. So that was a good one coming in second
Wow.
place for me. I wonder if we got the same P1 place or not.
No, I don't. Well, I don't think so. My best race car of all time is a Rallycross Peugeot, but specifically the 2019 championship winning Peugeot. That year, and you got to think that time compared to everything there was, technology wise at that time,
Yeah,
that car suited me like a glove. Like I've never been that comfortable behind the steering wheel, like sitting into the car, seat molded, perfect seating position, set up perfect for me. Like it was all those years of development come through to take that one spot. And then, we did win the championship, which makes it, even more of a better memory. We still have the roof hanging out in the
yeah,
workshop over there. Because I jumped on it, I destroyed it, but then we decided to put it out there. Oh yeah, my 208 WRX Peugeot.
Well, it
2019.
has a special place for you also, so I understand. And it was probably the time where we, as a like the Hansen team, was still, we had a freshly developed car that was cutting edge. It could
Yeah,
challenge the Hyundai and the Audi and all of these cars, and also the Volkswagen. The year before, we beat the Volkswagen with that car in races. So that was a really good car at the time. It was the best we had, and then since then, we didn't really develop much more. Coming into first spot for me, also Peugeot, because we've driven a few, but it is the one that was coming for the year that the Peugeot team stopped. The development we had going on for the 2019 season was really great. It is the 18 plus car. The engine is the best engine I've ever driven in
yeah,
my life.
agreed.
The range, we had data that showed that at 800 RPMs, we still had turbo boost,
Full
and it
torque.
could still. I know you could pull it to 8,000. The range
Yeah.
was ridiculous, and it was the most powerful engine on the grid. So unbelievable. Just everything about it was, it was full factory. Everything was super low. It was optimal. And then, there was a few tests towards the end where I was developing, because that 2019 year was when I was going to start using that chassis, and I was really getting some good tests with a good feeling in the car. And those tests, you showed that was my favorite race car of all time. But the
My
engine specifically,
that engine
unbelievable.
in Norway, in hell, from the last corner to the first corner, it's usually a second gear corner, and then you shift up to fifth by the end of the straight, and then down to probably third for the first corner again. And then you have that little jump in the middle. With the 18 plus Peugeot, I had 0 gear cuts on that straight. So
Wow.
I did decide to shift in the air in that little jump, but I was able to
Yeah.
carry 1 gear higher in the last corner, third gear, staying on there, using all of the torque all the way to the jump, made the gear cut in the air when, the wheels are not on the ground,
Yeah.
landed with fourth, and just over revved fourth gear. And so, during that straight, 0 gear cuts. And there was
Lovely.
full torque at the bottom end and full power even when you over revved it. It was so unbelievably cool. And in Canada, when we had that massive straight, was the best result we made with that car, second place. So
Yeah.
that's
It
a
did
brilliant car.
shake in at, I think it had 612 or 20 horsepower, which, like, if you, like they said, in the optimum world for that engine regulation, without any losses on friction, for example, which you will always lose because it's mechanical and you can't get an ultimate oil. It was 670. So to only be like 50 horsepower away from optimum
Yeah, from
is
theoretical limit.
yeah, exactly. It's unbelievable. So
We had the best
really,
engine on the grid then.
yeah, well done to Porsche back in the days for that engine. And
do you remember that year also? That whole year being a full factory driver is such an experience. I'm so grateful that we got to go through that at some point. But like coming into the truck, we had the front half of the truck was driver room. So when we stepped into the lower level, we had all our closet with the
yeah,
suits and underwear, and then we had like 3 helmets standing on the shelf, just like ready for us when we came in. And we could go up, and we had a little relax area with some
and we had
sofas and chairs,
two
table.
TVs where we had a guy who sit there, Paul, to just do V-Box for us, all day, all night. Like it was a job just to find hundreds and just show us and just be
Yeah.
like, here is the time you need to gain. And it was
What a time to
knockout.
be alive. It
Yeah,
was.
we had
That
a
was
trainer with us
unbelievable.
everywhere to keep us an optimum performance all the time. We had that, we had private chefs who made us delicious omelets every morning.
That's still the best omelette that I've
I
had to
know.
this day. The
You
omelette that our chef made.
you can see, you can. I know I've done a close one, not as good, but you just have a lot of cheese and just don't cook it so much, just undercook it, basically.
Huh.
Then it's nice. Kevin's recipe school we can get into another day.
Kevin's recipe school delivered to you in the Driver Excuses podcast. We have been talking for too long now anyway. Not really too long. Half an hour. It's been a good episode. I enjoyed this one, Kevin.
Yeah,
We
for
do
sure.
have a couple more points that we could have gone through, but we'll keep them in our back pocket for the
I
next
think we keep
episode.
them for another time. People have to keep listening to hear in another episode about our favorite circuits that we ever raced at and why. That's coming in a future episode, which we'll be very excited to speak about. There is again there a top 3, which is a few hidden ones that I think could be quite surprising. But so far, we really appreciate everyone for tuning in. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Give us a follow. Give us a little comment of what you thought of the episode, and we look forward to see you guys soon. And my brother, I'll see you in a few days because I'm coming back to Sweden.
Thank you so much for listening. We appreciate you very much. Talk to you next week.